If you love to ski, this winter was pretty epic. It stayed cold for weeks and there was plenty of snow. Whiteface Mountain near Lake Placid got more than 18 feet, up by more than 2 feet since last winter. It was an epic winter for ORDA, too, the state agency that runs Whiteface and all the Olympic venues in the Adirondacks. More skiers and more tourists coming to see big-time sporting events. We sort through the good and the bad of a big season on today's Story of the Day.
Support for Story of the Day comes from the Wild Center in Tupper Lake, dedicated to strengthening visitors' connections to the natural world. More at wildcenter.org.
Hey, I'm David Sommerstein. It's Monday, April 6th. First up, the Watertown City Council is considering job and service cuts as it puts together next year's budget. According to WWNY-TV, the city is looking at a nearly $64 million budget. That's up $5 million from last year. At a recent city council meeting, members discussed cutting up to 15 city employee positions. About 3/4 of the city budget goes towards payroll and benefits for city employees. The council is also looking at axing Watertown's trash removal service, which City Controller Jim Mills says is losing $200,000 a year.
We're lowering our sticker expected revenues by $125,000 because the numbers don't show where we're going to hit this year's budget.
Right-sizing Watertown's budget was a main topic of last year's city council election. Watertown is also grappling with the upcoming loss of a lucrative hydropower contract with National Grid. That contract is up in 2030. A cross-country ski center in the Adirondacks may soon have a new owner. The 200-acre Cascade ski area in Lake Placid was bought a few years ago by the Adirondack Mountain Club. ADK ran Cascade for a few winters, but reported an annual operating loss of $54,000, according to the Adirondack Explorer. The Mountain Club bought the property for $2.5 million. It reduced the listing price to just under $2 million in January. The prospective buyer has 60 days to review the property and details of the sale before finalizing the purchase. ADK wouldn't provide details about who the potential buyer is, but said they hoped Cascade could open again for cross-country skiing. The Olympic Regional Development Authority, which manages Whiteface, Gore, and Bel Air in the Catskills, says skier visits were up by 8% at all three of those mountains this winter. ORDA also hosted the cross-country skiing World Cup finals in Lake Placid a few weeks ago, which drew tens of thousands of visitors to the area. As the ski season comes to a close, Emily Russell checks in with ORDA's Tate Wardlaw about this winter's successes and shortfalls.
Skier visits are up across all of ORDA's mountains through a combination of Mother Nature taking great care of us with great snow in the east this year, as well as improvements in infrastructure that in turn help us deliver a more effective guest experience. So what that means is better, more reliable snowmaking earlier in the year, better grooming, more enjoyment in terms of lodge experiences, food and bev, things like that, and even improving our parking experiences. So it's a combination of the things that we can control, and always grateful for Mother Nature's help, which certainly helped this year.
Whiteface is, I think, the leading source of revenue for ORDA, but still, according to an independent audit from last year, there was an $11 million shortage in operating expenses for ORDA overall. So what is the Olympic Authority's strategy to reduce those losses? And how much does it help that attendance at these ski mountains is up this year?
So all three mountains account for the vast majority of our annual revenues. There's no question. It's important to note that $11 million loss is actually the smallest loss in annual operating expenses that ORDA has realized over the course of 25 years. The single greatest source of our annual shortfall includes large-scale events, which drive significant economic impact across the year, and also free or nearly free programming for local and regional communities, which we operate at a loss as well. And so, as you know, we balance the annual loss with what the social and economic impact is for the region, which the last time that it was measured equated into something that was almost $350 million in regional economic impact.
So what you're saying is like that $11 million shortfall in operating expenses is outweighed by the region-wide economic benefit to communities like Lake Placid, like North Creek.
That's exactly right.
So let's talk about the cross-country skiing World Cup finals that were recently held in Lake Placid. More than 35,000 attendees over those 3 days. There was, one very visible hiccup in that first day with the shuttles, people waiting on shuttles for hours, missing races. Just talk about lessons learned from the event overall.
For starters, you're absolutely right. We didn't accurately forecast the number of spectators that would look to get on the shuttle system from Lake Placid within essentially a sort of a 2-hour window. And we, quite frankly, we missed that. We also didn't anticipate that the road conditions were going to be as challenging on that day, so that what is normally a 10 or 15 minute drive ended up being a drive of 50 to 55 minutes.
Yeah, that was a very snowy day that Friday.
It was a wet, snowy day, so the roads were unusually slick that day. And we also didn't do as effective a job as we should have in communicating to our guests that they should get to the parking or to the venue 2 or 3 hours in advance. Having said that, these large-scale events, which we now have started to hold at least one, or for the last couple of years, 2 or 3 or even 4 a year, are beasts to predict in their initial year, in their first year. So we have plenty of lessons to learn. As you may recall, we reacted very quickly and more than doubled the number of buses. We also very directly communicated with ticket holders, with the community, with lodging, to let folks know how we've addressed the problem and what to expect, what timing should look like, et cetera, et cetera. And so the shuttle service from the second day of the event on through the end of the event proved to be the right size and scope.
What do you see as like the big successes of that World Cup weekend in Lake Placid?
Some of the big successes that I see as the takeaways include a relatively seamless guest experience from the beginning of the event all the way through the end. And I think just as importantly, we created an experience in partnership with FIS and with US Skiing and with the community that was overwhelmingly personal for all of those athletes and all of those attendees, in terms of being able to acknowledge the retirement of a few key athletes, certainly including American Jesse Diggins, the ability to see 5-time gold medal winner Johannes Kleibo in action and other American, future stars in action, and to see them up close to a point where you not only got to see them go fast, but you also got to see them suffer. You got to see them be emotional. You got to see them win when they won and be disappointed when they didn't. And ultimately, at the end of the day, those are the types of experiences that we're trying to deliver across all of our events, much more so than we ever have in the past.
That was Tate Wardlaw from the Olympic Regional Development Authority speaking with Emily Russell. We have more news all the time on our website, ncpr.org. Music today by Danny Thomas of Canton and Caitlin Scholl of Lake Placid. I'm David Summerstein, North Country Public Radio.